your brand is your brand. You are your brand. Whether it's right, wrong, indifferent, whether you have a problem with it, whether it's on brand with Vegas.
It's very on brand. It's very on brand.
Then that has to be what their brand is. The people who broke last night, the breakers. The breakers, was it Leighton, right? Leighton and Blez were the breakers. I think Leighton was the breakers. They're the ones that had the models, right? Then now their brand is Vegas style, models, scantily clad women. That's their brand.
That's not a
now
brand.
They had
their
to come out.
They're entertainers.
See, I'm gonna come down on a different side of this than you because
you're allowed.
We haven't
talked about this, and for the audience, there's benefit of having discussion on both sides.
There's a different way of doing it, right? Because there's a different way. What's the positive of it? Tell me, you have no problem. What is the gain? What is the gain from having that there during a break of cards?
Retention of audience on the live.
So, what are you giving for retention of audience? Like, what's the downside? No. What's the downside? In order to get something, you have to give something, right? So they now know that they are going down a path for audience retention, for views, for hits, for more likes or whatever it is.
They're putting on a show.
The male audience, they are going to
99% of the hobby.
But they're okay. But listen.
That's time out. That's not an opinion. That is a fact.
That's true.
7.3% of the hobby is male. I wish it would be more female.
You say you wish it would be more female, and then you come out and say that you don't have an issue with this, and that is the problem, and that's why it won't be more female. And you can't reconcile those two
because Blez and Leighton.
You froze for a second.
Let's give me break. Women don't want to enter the hobby. They're not the hobby. They're just two guys doing businesses in the hobby.
The women who are not gonna like that. They're not gonna feel like this is something they want to be a part of. They're not gonna want to bring other ones in because here they are breaking and making content and being the women of the hobby, starting their own businesses, and they're saying to themselves, "Okay, this is what the men in the hobby think the women in the hobby should be doing." That's how they're going to read it.
So,
and that's wrong. It shouldn't be like that.
So, tell me if this is a fair argument or this is slob.
Shoot, man, shoot. You could be a slob. You're a little slob.
Do all of their breaks without shirts on.
Yes,
that's also a representation of all males and what the entire.
I think it's different, man. You know,
or is that their brand?
No, so if they themselves want to objectify themselves by showing their belly buttons, that's fine. But by bringing a model in a bathing suit as part of what you're paying someone to do, as part of what your brand is putting out there, that's very different than if Leighton breakers themselves were out there with their belly button showing. That's different. It's a completely different story. What you need to do for a second, and you know, listen, because 97% of the hobby is 97% of the hobby, I get. I'll probably be on the minority in this, and that's fine. I'm willing to stay out on the ledge here. Put yourself in the position of some of the women in the hobby that you know. Some of the people who have worked their butts off in this hobby. You know, people like Mama's Breaks, people like Black Jaded Wolf, people like Alec Jaimo, right? People who are trying to, you know, build a name for themselves, build a business for this, doing what they do. Right? And now you have this thing. And keep in mind, it wasn't just a break on a Friday night. It was the most massive event, if you believe, you know, the promotion of it, $1 million break, right, of Flawless, with basically everybody paying attention, everybody tuning in, sold out in 2 seconds. And what the people who put that on chose to do was they chose to involve women, but not involve women as breakers, not involve women as, you know, people who were going to, you know, talk about the cards that got hit, like the Pokemon break. It's like, oh, look, the Bulbasaur, it's worth $175,000. They didn't have Jess, the breaker from Bleecker, do it. They didn't have, you know, like they have women breakers that work for them. They didn't do it that way. They decided that to involve a woman in the hobby is to hire someone to stand there in a bathing suit. And again,
I see. They're saying your role is not to break, even though there are women breakers. Your role is to stand over there and look pretty.
I'm not saying that was so. It's tough to get into someone's brain. I can't. I don't know the mens rea. I don't know the guilty intent over here. I can't get into the brain of Leighton and Blaise. But if I could, I'm sure that wasn't the intention. I'm sure the intention, like you said, is entertainment, retention of eyeballs, understanding, what the makeup of the hobby is. But what you need to
UFC,
do and what they need to do
in between rings, a girl
I just
walks
said that.
across.
Dude, you don't listen when I talk. Either that or it's broken up. So I just talked about the ring girls. I said yes.
Okay.
But do me a favor, close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes for a second and put yourself in the shoes of one of the women in the hobby. And when they see that, what do they think? Don't put yourself in the 97%. Okay, put yourself in the 3%. And think when you tune into that, right? What do you think? You're Christina's PC, who just basically helped put this whole conference on here. Probably did a better job than any of the 97% of men out there could do, right? You're Alec Jaimo, who's hosting the whole damn thing, right? Black Jada Wolf, I saw her when I was in there walking around live, setting up with a whole team of people that she's basically deploying to do different things throughout the weekend, right? The first thing they see in this big break is, yes, please, put yourself in those shoes.
So I can never put myself into other women's, like 100%, but I'm trying to. I don't feel that what one woman does has.
That's not the point. Okay, that's not what the women did. What the women did was fine. It's what the breakers did. It's what the men in the hobby did. Right?
I would like for next year to be women breakers. I think that should be an initiative.
And I'm fine with that.
I think they should do that.
I'm fine with that. And if they did this again, I'm sure they're not going to do it.
I don't think Blaise and Leighton are a representation of the hobby. They're two businesses trying to make money, and they put on a show. If you want a different show, bring on different breakers. You could bring on vintage breaks. You would do things way differently.
I understand that, but they have to understand the blowback
the tone and
that is going to be caused. No, I mean, no one's saying they broke the law, right? No one's saying that the 97% that you are a part of are going to have an issue with it, right? And maybe they did have better retention. Maybe people did stay tuned in because it was a boring ass break. Maybe people, maybe it was a draw. I honestly don't know, but you trade something for that, right? You may get more viewers, but you are going to get some blowback. You are going to get some people talking about it. And we're not going to solve this here. We're definitely not. But if we really are telling truths when we talk about expanding the hobby and having women in the hobby and, making sure that they have a role in the hobby, that was not the way to do it, in my eyes.